Who will speak for the waste? Who will speak for the wasting of our opportunity? Who will speak for the fires? Who will speak for the fires in which we burn our legacy? Who will speak for the lives? Who will speak for the species that are soon to fade away? Who will speak for the child? Who will speak for the future of the child that has no say? We are the voice of all.
Hello, this is Paul Connett. As you can see from the scenery behind me, we're in the San Francisco area. We're here because the city of San Francisco has not only declared a zero waste goal by 2020, a number of communities have done that around the world. What they've also done is to declare a goal of 75% reduction to landfill by 2010. That's only 6 years from now. They really mean business. And so we're going to go and talk to some officials and other people living in the area and running businesses in the area to see how they are approaching these lofty goals.
The population of San Francisco is about 780,000 people. Okay. And we're part of a 7 million person metropolis, the center of it.
Okay, so what is it that's allowing you to get 63% diversion right now?
There's a lot of pieces to it. First of all, 2/3 of our waste stream is commercial. And there's a lot of industrial waste, at least in terms of construction and demolition materials. So I think we have to be honest and say that we're calculating our diversion rate based on California's formula, which does allow for commercial, residential, some industrial materials. And certainly there are demolitions and construction projects that really add to our diversion rate. So there's certainly that's part of it. But we're doing very well in the residential sector. We have a 3-bin program and other programs, waste prevention programs that help us. We have a whole series of commercial programs for offices, for restaurants. So we're doing kind of a range of things from waste prevention, reuse, recycling of all different kinds of things, from paper to auto glass to concrete, you name it. And then we're composting. We're composting not just yard trimmings, but also food scraps, soiled paper, other compostables. And we've got 3 bins. The first bin is a green one for all organic materials, all compostables, yard trimmings, food scraps, compostable paper, things of that nature. The second is a blue cart, and that's for all recyclables, all your bottles, cans, paper, even plastic tubs and lids. And the last black cart is for whatever you have left, and that really tends to be certain kinds of plastic, certain assembled products that we don't have a market for. So it really is as easy as 1, 2, 3 in that respect. If you're a residential customer, you'd put all the bins out on the same day on the curb. The idea is it's just much easier to remember today is Wednesday, it's my day for everything. And the truck, one truck comes and gets all of your recyclables and your refuse, and a second truck comes and gets your compostables. The compostables is a more variable route in terms of the seasons and that kind of thing, so we wanted to have it be the separate truck.
And where does this material go to once it's been picked up?
The landfill for us is over 60 miles away at Altamont Pass. Our composting facility is a similar distance, and the recyclables are processed right here in San Francisco.
Explain the pay-by-throw concept, would you?
The pay-as-you-throw basically means you pay for the garbage you produce. So in San Francisco, like in the residential sector, you don't pay for recycling, you don't pay for composting directly. It's actually paid for through your garbage rates. And so you pay only for the amount of garbage capacity that you have. The size of the garbage container, the frequency of service, and some additional charges if you want, say, someone to come into your building. You pay for exactly the service that you get for garbage. In the commercial sector, recycling is often free. The composting is often at a 25% discount off the garbage rate. So we're incentivizing the generators and the collectors to recycle and compost. NorCal has long been a garbage company, but I would argue that NorCal is fast becoming a recycling company. I'd say that they're one of the premier recycling companies in the country, if not the world. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is they don't own the landfill that serves San Francisco, and they really would rather not give that tonnage, that revenue to their competitors. And we also have a system where NorCal makes more profit if they can stay below 2 tiers of landfilling. And NorCal's done a very good job staying below these tiers, one of which was their projections for what they could do. And because they hit that, they get their normal profit. Had they not hit that, they would have been penalized. And the second is an extremely ambitious tier that we have set, and they have come very close to that tier. Excellent. And so I feel that NorCal is very much incentivized to recycle and very much a partner of ours.
Thinking about these little economic tools to tweak the system is very important, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a big part of what we do, and it's something that we do as part of our rate process. When we set the garbage rates, we set up the whole structure, and these are things that we can tweak periodically to give more incentives to generators and more incentives to haulers. We're the first large city that's done food scrap collection in the United States, and we now have the largest program. We're serving about 2,000 different businesses, a lot of restaurants, hotels, markets, food service industries. So it's really quite a large commercial program. We're getting also most of the residents participating. I should say that we're primarily serving the smaller 1 to 5 unit residential buildings. We don't have necessarily all the apartments on board at this point, but we're working wherever we can to get the large amounts of food, and we're collecting about 300 tons a day. It's about 80,000 tons a year, so it's quite a large-scale program. This is a 2-gallon pail for composting. Yep. We give this to all the households on the composting program. Yep. And in fact, we gave it to all the 1 through 5 unit buildings along with their larger green composting cart. So the idea is that you use this pail in your kitchen, put it under your sink wherever it fits, and then you can throw food scraps, soiled paper. Here we've got some tea bags, soiled paper bag, a paper cup in here.
And on the lid?
And on the lid we've got a nice label here.
Okay, let me, okay, yeah.
It shows you what you can compost, and it shows a little bit of pictures. Our newest ones have more pictures. This one has English, Spanish, and Chinese. It tells you what you can put in and what you can't put in. And you can line this pail if you choose to, or not line it and just rinse it out. And then you put these materials into your larger toter along with your yard trimmings.
Now, you have a lot of hotels and a lot of restaurants in San Francisco. You're known for it worldwide. What kind of problems do they present?
The biggest issue has been space. We have very large hotels without a lot of dock space, tricky entrance, that kind of thing. But they're using dedicated compactors just for organics, so there's ways to make that work. We have places like Chinatown that are extremely dense. We've given them a financial incentive, and they want to do the right thing, and they are doing it. I kind of feel like if San Francisco can do this, pretty much anywhere can do it.
Tell us a little bit more about that economic incentive.
Well, in the commercial sector, you basically get a 25% discount on trash. So whatever you're paying for a volume of trash, you can send it to composting for 25% less. The composting facility is a little over 70 miles away. It's in Dixon, California, near Vacaville. It's owned by NorCal Waste Systems. It's called Jepson Prairie Organics. The nice thing about it is it's very close to the end users of the product. It's surrounded by farms, and so when the compost is made, it goes to the local organic farms and to the vineyards nearby.
Excellent.
So what they do is they grind the material and feed it into a long plastic bag that's aerated, and the material decomposes in the bag. Then they open the bag, recycle the bag, and let it cure on its own in a windrow for a little bit longer. Then they sell it to the farmers and vineyards, and the great thing about this is the food, the organic food and wine that's produced with the compost comes back to the people that produce the food scraps in the first place. So it's a real closed loop.
Real closed loop.
It's a relatively low-tech operation. We felt we needed to have an enclosed operation of some sort to deal with vector issues around the food. And rather than building a building and investing all that kind of money, we felt that by enclosing it in these plastic bags, it would give us a very good product relatively quickly and not cost a lot of money and not be too difficult to operate. And we found that it's worked quite well.
And presumably having the plastic bag around this material contains the odors.
It does. It contains the odors. It contains liquids. It keeps the vectors out of it. There's a certain amount of wind. It protects the materials from the wind. So it's a very inexpensive self-contained system.
And in a fairly dry climate, also it hangs on to the moisture. That doesn't evaporate and disappear.
That's correct. We only have rain half of the year, so it keeps it a little drier in the rainy period, and it keeps the moisture in during the dry period. And
what about the recyclables? Where do they go to in the city?
Well, we have various collectors of recyclables in the city. NorCal Waste Systems, their two subsidiaries are the primary collectors, and they've built a facility at Pier 96, which is state-of-the-art, largest facility I'm aware of in the Western United States. And They've invested a lot of money in this facility. There's a lot of different sorting lines there. There's the latest equipment in terms of star screens and that kind of thing to separate the bottles and cans from the paper. So commercial material, residential material, and source separated material all goes there to be sorted. And they sort it to the highest grades they can that are economic.
What are you doing in San Francisco to capture the reusables and keeping them out of the waste stream?
Well, we have a very well-developed network of reuse industries and reuse service providers, nonprofits. You know, if you just walk down some of the streets like Haight Street, for example, it's amazing just how many thrift stores there are. So a lot of this is developed just through economic necessity in the private sector. We've encouraged a lot of development in more niche markets using a grant program. We have $1 million a year that we give to nonprofits, and I would say probably 80% of that money has been for reuse. So we're helping to stimulate reuse of kind of innovative products, you know, things that normally wouldn't sell. We've also worked with NorCal, and they're currently rebuilding their entire public disposal and recycling area. It's going to be even more of a reuse area.
Now, could you tell us perhaps one reuse operation that we could go and look at and talk to the operator there?
Boy, there's so many places that do great use. But I'm thinking maybe Building Resources would be a good place to visit because they've got building materials, very large items, very interesting art items. That's right here in San Francisco. And across the bay, Urban Ore was kind of the model for many of these organizations. We learned some things from them as we were starting Building Resources here in San Francisco.
Well, we're a nonprofit building materials recovery facility. We run it much like a thrift store. Materials comes in the front door, gets sorted out into the respective categories, graded and priced, and then resold back to the public. And we've been doing it for 10 years. On the average now, we divert over 1,000 tons a year. Most of the materials are, you know, doors, windows, bricks, boards, bathtubs, sinks, tubs, toilets, lighting, you name it. I mean, all the standard building material parts, and we're not focused on any one particular period, so that we're able to move throughout the whole waste stream and pick out those pieces which work best, you know, in reuse. We sell them at about 1/4 to 1/3 of retail, so it's really an incentive for a lot of different markets. I mean, we have to try to position ourselves in different ways to get reuse to become a reality. Because a lot of people, they kind of look at it and they go, oh, yeah, it's a junkyard. But I mean, we get price shoppers, and those you have to address solely on the principle of it's cheaper than you can buy it anywhere else. And then you have, you know, what I would say are the value shoppers, that they want something that's substantial and, you know, well made and, you know, like the old stuff. And then you've got the architectural shopper who wants, like, I'm looking for a set of corbels and some Victorian spindles. And then you have the green shopper who is like, I want reuse materials because I'm doing reuse and I want it to be green and I want it to be, you know, save energy and ostensibly save the planet.
What about gross income?
Gross income, we do about, on an average day, we do $1,000 a day or better, $30,000 a month.
Now, knowing what you know about the value of so many of these things here, what does it do to you when you hear in other places that these things are getting smashed and they're going into landfills?
It used to drive me absolutely crazy. I mean, you know, when I was younger, I grew up in a town where the landfill was an open landfill, and you see these giant tractors just smashing stuff, which is one of the impetuses for me getting this job, was that I just had to put my money where my mouth was. Yeah. What it does is it saddens me, it kind of angers me, but I have to temper that with the fact that I can't change the whole planet all at once. I can change a city. Yes. And I can really effectively change a city. And if I change this city and show somebody else how to change the next city over, then pretty soon we've changed the state. And if we can change the state, then the next thing, we can export that to the next state over and say, here's how we did it, here's how you might do it, and then we can help them do that. And that's really the goal. I mean, it's the thing about, you know, act locally. And I really have come to believe that that's the only thing I can do, is act right here in San Francisco in this little acre and an eighth to make it all happen. San Francisco's lucky and very fortunate, and we've worked really hard over the years to have a whole crossover layers of different people doing different aspects of the reuse and recycling, so that it's not any one person's, you know, it's everyone's doing it, and they're all layered up, and we all know each other. And it's not like we don't cross over zones, it's just that we don't step on each other's toes.
Yeah.
So the guys doing the organics program know me and I know them, but I don't handle organics.
Yeah.
And they don't handle bricks and boards.
Yeah.
So we've kind of got a system built up where we've got an infrastructure that's locked together but separated.
Yeah. And there are some things, I assume, that even though you don't sell them, they're very attractive, and therefore it's fun for people walking around.
We do a lot of that, yeah. We do a lot of ornamental, kind of interesting big pieces. I mean, you know, we do like a lot of planting here. All of our plants are donated. We do a lot of gardening. We've got a fish pond that's got a full backing. You know, the sculptural backing is made all entirely of styrofoam. Basically, a ripped-off EMS system, you know, which is a exterior membrane system they're using for building cheap, fast buildings. Well, I just appropriated the technology and made one, you know, this fountain out of styrofoam. It's been there for 9 years without wearing out. How about a 12.5-foot high microscope? You know, got one of those too. You know, this is just goofy stuff that floats in and out. It's kind of fun, and we try to keep it really visual because a good portion of our business is in the visual trades. Yeah. We get a lot of the movie companies. We get TV companies coming in for parts. We get trade show people looking for booth materials, jewelers looking for things to hang their jewelry on for trade shows, small stores, artists, photographers, you name it. And that's actually a very active, here in the city, a very active part of our business. That's like 30% of our business is in creative enterprises. Yeah. And then you learn from that. You learn to kind of like look at things upside down, or learn to turn them over, or learn to, you know, set them on their ear and go, what can that be?
Is there much deconstruction going on in San Francisco?
There's a decent amount of deconstruction going on in San Francisco. We had some very good deconstruction in the Presidio. An entire building came down, had beautiful Port Orford cedar in it. That wood was recovered, remilled, reused. That was a good example. There's been a couple other examples I can think of, residentially and commercially.
And the Presidio was what, the old army barracks, was it?
That's a reuse example of itself. The Presidio used to be a military base, and now it's being reused as an urban national park. And there's a lot of very interesting things going on at the Presidio.
When we sell our building materials out of buildings, that we can say, this building was in this place and had this use and this function, they go, wow, it's like, would you like some furniture made of Presidio wood? It's not just any old wood. It's something that has history.
Plastics is one of the things that plagues us. There's lots of different aspects of it, and we're working where we can to recycle as much plastic as we can and put it into real recycling, not just downcycling. But some of it is very difficult, especially the composites, the things that are made out of multiple materials. And there's some things that we're just using too much of because we're not thinking about it, we're not incentivized to do something about it. So we're starting first on plastic bags. The reason for that is there's so many of them on the streets. They're blowing around. There's one actually in the tree right behind you. They're everywhere. And everybody has them in their homes. And frankly, we don't need that many. We don't need them on a newspaper every day when it's not raining. It doesn't rain here 6 months of the year. We don't need, 10 more when we go to the supermarket. So the idea is to see what other countries are doing and put a fee on bags. And we're not just talking about plastic bags in this case, but also paper bags. There's environmental costs associated with both paper and plastic. And we're thinking if we put a fee, say like 25 cents, people are really going to think twice before they go to the store about whether they need to bring bags with them or not.
A tiny 5% of the people in the world consume 1/3 of its resources and produce almost half the non-organic waste. Those people are us.
What about industrial responsibility, trying to get better design at the front end?
We're not going to get to zero waste without producer responsibility. I mean, at this point, the way it works is you produce something, you sell it, you make your profit, you're done. And then it's somebody else's problem. It might be the consumer's problem, but ultimately, if the problems aren't being dealt with, it comes to city government, local government. And that's why we're dealing with this at the back end of the pipe. But we can't possibly solve it at the back end of the pipe. It's coming out of the pipe faster than we can capture it. A new product's coming out every day. We don't know what's in it. We don't know how it can be recycled. We've got to figure this out. We're basically being buried in this stuff. So it's absolutely critical that manufacturers think about how they produce these things, be incentivized to produce them more cleanly, make sure that they're recyclable or compostable. If they can clean up the front of the pipe, then we can handle what's really appropriate at the back of the pipe. And I hear terms like shared responsibility. My view is it's the responsibility of the producers to produce clean products. It's the responsibility of consumers to use them and dispose of them wisely. Government is only there when people are being irresponsible.
What kind of response are you getting from other officials, from other cities around California, around the United States, around the world? Are they looking at you as if it's, it's one of those crazy San Franciscans, or are they genuinely interested and think they might copy you?
I think there's a few people out there that think we're crazy San Franciscans, but we actually relish that. I think what I hear the most is, we wish we could do what you're doing in San Francisco. We wish we had the mayor that you had. We wish we had the political support that you had. We wish we were able to do the kinds of programs that you're able to do. So a lot of times I do hear that San Francisco is leading, but I've got to share the credit. There are other communities that are doing as well as we are in different areas. There's a lot of major cities doing very well as far as diversion. There's a lot of cities with very innovative programs. The Bay Area is very much a hotbed of that. So I have to kind of say that, San Jose is doing great things. Oakland's doing great things. Some of the smaller cities here are doing great things. And I kind of feel like the Bay Area is leading. Seattle's leading in some respects. Portland's leading in some respects. So we've got the West Coast taking a lead. There's places in the East Coast that are leading in some respects. And there's some pockets in the center of the country that are doing great things. I think the leaders have to do what they can so that we can all move together to zero waste.
Right. I can't help thinking back, 20 years ago, 1985, I had the local young fellow working in the Environmental Management Council who was part of a team that was trying to build an incinerator in our county. And he shouted down the phone, he said, "Paul, if you talk about more than 15% recycling, you're going to lose all your credibility."
And I remember people saying that about 25%, 35%, 50%. Well, we're past 50% now. In fact, California's at 47, I believe, is the last number, and most cities are above 50%. There's cities that are at 80%. Small towns that have, say, one big processor there. So the sky's the limit. I think the real test is whether we can get to zero waste or not. I think we can get to 75%, and we're going towards zero waste.
San Francisco is already over 50% diversion.
Yes.
Their goal is 75% by 2010.
Yeah.
Do you think that's doable?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
75%?
Yeah.
And what about the impossible, the zero waste by 2020?
I think that's a goal. Whether we'll get it by 2020 is a guess. I don't think it's an impossible.
Yeah.
I think it's an eminently possible, but I think what we have to do is that we have to show industry and government that it's doable. That the only way we're really going to get the buy-in and really solve the problem is if we can get the big companies that are just slumbering through doing business the old way. If we can suddenly show them that, there's a profit to be made, there's jobs to create, there's industries, whole industries to build all around this stuff, and they're just totally ignoring it. I mean, I've got machine manufacturers, I go to these recycling things and say, "Yep, I just made this giant machine will chew a log up in 16 seconds. It's like, who cares? I don't want to chew a log up. I want to turn it into something. If you use just a little more imagination and come up with a machine that'll take scrap marble and tile, use a laser guided water cannon cutter and turn that back into 4x4 tiles, and so we don't have to throw all this marble and granite scrap out. It's totally doable. The technology's on the shelf right now. Nobody's taking the time to go put the technologies together, make it happen, make that reprocessing machinery available. If industry would just wake up, there's marketing, there's niche products that totally need to be built. There's whole industries that can be built out of this stuff. It's not waste stream, it's just product. And we're going to have to get to it because we're running out on the virgin side. We've already sacrificed the virgin at the mountain. And there's just not too many left. You know what I mean?
Grandpa!
What?
Will I grow up to be big and strong like you?
I sure hope so, son.
Why wouldn't I, Grandpa?
Well, unless something is done soon, big old trees like me will be nothing but a memory, like the giants in the old fairy tales.
But Grandpa, what would the forest be without old ones like you?
I think they call it a tree farm, son.
I think we're very aware of what we're doing to the planet, what we're doing to ourselves, to all the species on the planet. And there's just no way we can continue like this. I think we're heading it towards a brick wall at a very high velocity. And if we don't stop, we're not only going to take ourselves out, but the whole arc of all the species that are with us. So for me, it's about trying to live a way that's a better livelihood, that's more sane, that's better for the species, that's more just. I think we can have a better life for everyone and everything if we just be a little more responsible, and recycling is kind of the tip of the iceberg on that.
And in sense your question of can we do it, I think San Francisco is as good a spot as any. I mean, why not do it here? You know, why not make it happen here? We got intelligent people here. We got a committed government structure. 75% is doable.
We've got businesses that are pretty close to zero waste. Anchor Brewing Company here in San Francisco, it's really the first microbrewery. They brew Anchor Steam, which is a good beer, by the way, and kind of started the microbrewery movement in the U.S. Is diverting 99.4% of its waste. If that's not darn close to zero waste, I don't know what is.
Delicious. This company is doing everything it can to reduce its waste stream. They're recycling the cardboard, they're recycling the shrink plastic, any broken glass is being recycled, their hops are being composted, the malt, the barley, all the foodstuffs which go into making the beer, anything that's left over goes to feed animals. And the end result of all that is that they have reduced their waste stream by 99.4%. A very valuable part of San Francisco's effort to get zero waste by 2020 and reduce their waste stream by 75% by 2010. With more companies like this making the contribution, they're going to make that goal. And again, what a delicious goal it is.
And as one official said, you know, if San Francisco City can do it, any city in the world can do it. It's not easy. They don't have very much space there. They have many different languages to deal with, and yet they're taking it on and they're doing it. Truly an inspiring piece on the road to zero waste. This is Paul Connett. Thank you for watching.